Hello everyone, not today from Frankfurt am Main, Germany. Today I'm in the southern part of Germany, close to Memmingen, which is at the Austrian border, to have a look at the brand new Insta360 ONE RS. Today it's going to be a tutorial about this camera, what you can do with it. I will show you how to insert a memory card, how you turn it on, how to record a video, how to use voice control, how to use the app, how to do video editing, how to do photo editing, how to connect the thing with your phone, how to use an external microphone, how to connect the Apple AirPods to this camera. A lot of things will be discussed. If you would like to support my channel, feel free to buy this camera or the equipment, which I'm going to show you in a few moments, using the link provided in the video description below. Make also sure to follow me on Telegram and Instagram. And I'm really sorry today, I don't have the best lighting conditions here and I just got out of the shower. However, I will try to make this tutorial as interesting and informative as possible. Let's get started. So here's the Insta360 ONE RS. Attached to this camera is the accessory mount, which I can recommend to you highly, since you are able to put a video light or an external microphone on top of this camera. I have placed this camera on this wonderful tripod here made of wood, link listed in the video description below, and adjusted is the 4K boost lens. To get some light into this room, I am using these small light tubes here, which are really cool. They're so easy to handle. One of them is attached to my camera up here just to have a little bit more light here in the hotel room. You can adjust the color, temperature, you can change the color obviously as well. And here are some accessories which I can recommend using this camera. A small tripod is always helpful. I have set up two of them. This one is the smaller one, that one is the bigger one. And they're always great once you travel a lot. You want to have as little weight as possible in your camera bag, and that's why they are so useful. If you want to enhance the audio quality, you better get this little dude here. At the bottom side is a USB-C port, and on top is a port to attach an external microphone. So you would be able to power up this camera recording at the same time using this adapter and to use all external microphones. I do have a test after this review as well, or inside this review as well, where I tested like 3 or 4 external microphones. These ones are one of the best suction cups I've ever used. I promise I'm using them for more than 1.5 years now. Before I used the original one from GoPro, which went back to Amazon within 2 weeks because it didn't have a ball head included, while this one here is so compact, including a ball head, which you can turn 360 degrees. This one here is quite the same. It does have a bigger surface and a arm, which you can rotate, so an extension arm, to be able to film from all sides. You can use them on your car as well, or in a plane, not outside of a plane. There is the 360 degree lens, which you can attach to the Insta360 ONE RS. Make sure not to scratch it. However, I scratched this one here already. As you can see, I hope you won't see it in the video. And here is my previous camera. That is the Insta360 ONE X2, which I love, to be honest. Once I'm doing a review, I have this camera attached at my camera to show you how I did a photo, or how I took a photo, or how I created a video. Kind of filming yourself, and if you use the invisible selfie stick over there, you can place it on top of your camera, and it seems to look like if there's a drone just circling over your head. You do need a memory card for this camera, and that is the one which I can recommend to you. Let me turn down the ISO here very quick. 128 gigabytes. However, I would rather use a 256 gigabyte memory card. Link is listed in the video description. So here's a small non-powered microphone from a company called Sennheiser. Really compact. You don't need batteries for that, and you can connect it to this camera to get some better audio quality if you purchase this audio adapter over there. That is the invisible selfie stick. It's called invisible selfie stick because the camera ignores that stick. So you can hold that stick in your hand and no one sees that you have a selfie stick in your hand. That is quite handy. And at the bottom side is a tripod mount. You can obviously extend this one here, and it's such a nice thing to have for your camera. And I will control this camera using my iPhone 11 Pro Max using the Insta360 app, which is available for free for Android and iOS. So one of the first things you need to do once you get this camera is probably to connect the camera module, which is this one here, to a lens, which is here, and to insert a memory card, which is the original one here. For the time being, an easy way to get it in is just to place the side, which is colored, facing outwards, and then just push it. To get it out, push it once again, and there's your memory card. You can power up this camera using the cable provided or any other USB-C cable. You can use a power bank, the adapter from your car, the power adapter from your phone. So here's the battery. Make sure these pins will go in here. Then it needs to make click, and now the camera is connected to the battery. Make sure anytime you insert the camera to the case that these buttons match. So if you put it in like this, it will fit as well. However, these buttons won't work because the buttons are on this side. Slide it in here and close it. To power up the camera, use the inner button and push it for 2 seconds. There you go. Now you need to choose a language. If you only see these 3 languages, please make sure to do a firmware update, which you can do using the app or the Insta360 Studio app for your computer. Because right now I see a lot of different languages. However, for this tutorial I'm using English, and that's the display, which I will turn down the brightness. You will get some short information regarding, or you will get some tips here displayed, which I will skip here at the moment since we're coming to these ones later on. So let's jump into the settings first. Swipe from the top to the bottom, and there's the camera menu. I know it's flickering and I have no idea why it's doing that. I tried to change the shutter speed of my camera, however the display is flickering. I don't see it flickering, but the camera does. So once again, to get into this menu here, swipe from the top to the bottom to adjust the brightness of the display. Use this little symbol here, which is useful to save some battery. To lock the display, use the other symbol, and here it says to unlock the screen, just use the slider. Get back into the menu, swiping from the top to the bottom. Here's the image stabilizer. You have 3 different settings, and some of them will crop into your footage. So the one I'm using most of the time is standard. You do have high as well, and you do have low as well. For most of the things I'm doing, riding a bicycle, running, standard is fulfilling its job. You do have some LEDs around this camera. I can give you a hint. Once you try to use this camera as a spy camera for your neighbor and you want to place it somewhere in your garden because you kind of have the feeling that your neighbor jumps into it, and you place it somewhere into the bushes and you don't want to be you don't want the camera to be visible, you can disable the indication by using this little button right here. For demonstration purposes, I try to keep it on, and if you swipe from the right to the left, there is even more menu. It's indicated by these 3 buttons up here. You can use a grid for this camera. Now you see there's a grid if you want to try to align this camera somewhere with the horizon, and if you double tap on the display you see it in full screen. If you don't want to have the camera's menu flipping around, use this button here if you always want to have it in one direction. Voice control is enabled now, and how it's working I will show you that straight away, otherwise I might forget it. By the way, don't worry, the display is not just crap while you use it. I kind of have the same impression. See, I want to touch on general and it's always going the other way. It's just too small. So here is voice control. You can choose a different language. So you can have the choice between these two. And here are the voice commands. Take a photo. Take a photo. To be honest, I did have to turn off the camera because it didn't accept my voice control, and now it seems to be working once after I turned it back on again. So if you have the kind of the feeling that it doesn't work, just switch it off and turn it back on. Take a video. Start recording. Now it's recording a video. Stop recording. Take a photo. Now it seems to be working. Kind of a useful feature if you go skiing or snowboarding and you do have these gloves on and you can't touch these buttons. I think it's quite useful. However, for this kind of demonstration, I will switch it off. QuickCapture is a feature that allows you to use the start and the stop button to start the camera, take a video, stop to record the video, and then the camera turns off. Usually you push the power on and the power off button to turn on the camera, and then you start to record a video. However, if you want to save some battery while walking through a city, you can use the start and the stop button, push it for 2 seconds, the camera will start to take a video straight away. Once you've finished, push the record button once again, just push it for like half a second, the camera will stop the video and it will turn off. One feature which I like a lot is you can use the USB mode here. So once you attach this camera using a cable to your computer, you can read out all the files straight away without installing any external apps, which isn't the case with GoPro, by the way. So you have the webcam feature here as well, and the quick reader, which is an additional feature which kind of looks the same as the audio adapter. I did already a video about that. Prompt sound, if you don't want to hear the sounds all the time, you can switch them off. Now I'm not hearing any sounds anymore. However, for demonstration purposes, I will put them back on. Bluetooth wake up. In my point of view, quite an interesting feature, because you can wake up the camera using the Insta360 app using your phone. Auto power off after 3 minutes. That's what I would actually use. Jesus, this monitor is awful to everyone who have to use it. So let's get back here very quick. The Bluetooth remote is basically a remote which you can use once you have attached this camera somewhere, let's say around your motorbike, and you can't touch it while driving. One of the best accessories for this camera, by the way. Apple AirPods. If you're an Apple user and you have the Apple AirPods, doesn't matter which ones, you can connect them to the camera, and let's assume you don't have an external microphone or you don't want to spend the money on that. And however you do a lot of vlogging, you can use the internal microphone of the Apple AirPods. One thing which I like a lot is that you can use the Apple AirPods in combination with the Insta360 ONE RS. As you're aware, you can make phone calls or video conferences using the integrated microphone of the Apple AirPods, and you can make also use of that internal microphone if you connect it to the Insta360 ONE RS. And here, ladies and gentlemen, once again the internal microphone of the Insta360 ONE RS without the Apple AirPods. Screen auto sleep after 1 minute during a recording. Don't sleep or auto sleep. I would leave it in auto sleep, because if you do a time lapse, you don't need to look at the monitor at all times. And to save some battery, I would put it to auto sleep. In the audio mode, so you can use a wind reduction, directional enhancement, or stereo. It's pre-selected to stereo, which I would use at all times. SD card. See, I have inserted a 64 GB memory card, of which I can use 58 GB. And if you want to format the SD card, you can use push the format SD card button. To get out of this menu, use this bar down here and swipe it up. To get back in full screen, push on the monitor twice. To see the files you have recorded, swipe from the bottom to the top. Here, for instance, is a photo which you can delete straight away. If you push on these squares on the upper left side, there are several videos which have been recorded already. To delete some of them, select them and push the garbage. To get out of this menu, swipe from the top to the bottom. I know it's flickering, I'm really sorry about it, I can't do anything at the moment. So we are in photo mode. With the memory card inserted in this camera, we can take another 2090 pictures. Here's the battery indication, and if you push on this here, you can select either a timer if you want to take a photo of yourself. You can select a 48 megapixel photo. So here's another resolution, 36 megapixels, and to be honest, with that small camera sensor inside this camera, I would shoot always at 12 or maximum 36 megapixels. If you swipe from the right to the left, you can adjust the angle. So we're shooting now in ultra wide. There's the option of wide, linear and narrow. It's not a zoom lens, the camera will crop in. So the more you crop in, let's say narrow, the worse the image quality gets. So it doesn't get better. Linear is great if you want to take a picture of something like a building where you want to straighten the lines and don't want to have that fisheye look. And most of the time I'm shooting in wide, because ultra wide is more like a fisheye scene, which I'm not a really big fan of. To change the modes, either push that symbol down here, so we can take an HDR photo, or swipe from the left to the right, which I will do in a second. So that's HDR, stands for high dynamic range. That's useful if you have a lot of shadows, sun, and you want to have kind of an equal contrast. You do have different options here. You can choose between 9 megapixels and 12 megapixels in a format of 4:3. Swipe from the left to the right, and then you go back into that menu. Interval, you do have an under menu here as well. You can do an interval photo in, let me have a look, 9 12, 36 or 48 megapixels as well. Let's assume you want to take raw pictures, do post editing like color grading, and put them together in a small time-lapse video. You can do that by shooting intervall photos instead of video, by the way. There's also the under menu, sub menu. You do have the option to adjust the ISO by yourself or the shutter speed to set a timer. Night picture, you're restricted to either 9 or 12 megapixels, which is useful anyways, since the smaller the camera sensor, the worse the low light performance. The more megapixels you have on a smaller image sensor, the more grainy the entire picture looks like. So in this case, you can obviously use a timer as well, and you can swipe from the right to the left to make other adjustments like the white balance, or you can select either to take only a raw picture, raw with a JPEG, or only a JPEG picture. If you choose to record also in RAW, the camera will save two files, so one JPEG and one RAW file ends with DNG, which can be edited in post using programs like Adobe Lightroom. A RAW file usually is bigger in file size, and there's some more picture information behind it, which makes it more easy to do post editing with. Starlapse is a nighttime lapse, and down here you can select if you would like to do that in 9 or 12 megapixels. A burst can be used with this lens, however you cannot use the burst feature using the 360-degree lens, because the 360-degree lens has to merge all the pictures together to a cube picture, let's call it this way, and it's not possible to do that in a burst mode. Here you can select the resolution, you can set a timer, and if you swipe from the right to the left, let me have a look. Yeah, you can obviously change the angle, and you can do manual adjustments like the shutter speed, the ISO, white balance, and you can select different image styles. Here's a log profile. If you're interested in color grading, I will show you that later in the app as well. Standard or vivid. 6K widescreen mode. There's a small tip for you. 6K widescreen mode not recommended in low light environment. Don't show that again. Here are your options. You can record in 6K widescreen using 25 or 24 frames per second. Loop recording is one feature which is useful if you plan on doing, for instance, a sport exercise. So let's assume you trying a stunt with your skateboard, for instance, and you don't want to record for an hour until you pass that stunt. And the camera will basically do a loop video, so it's an endless tape, and it stops recording after 5 minutes. So it's not recording, it's basically recording always for 5 minutes. So it will not go beyond 5 minutes. So you don't have a video which is like 30 minutes long. It's always 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 3 minutes long. You can choose the resolution 1080p, 2.7K, 4K, 50 frames per second, 60 frames per second, or 30 frames per second. That makes it quite easy to save some memory, and you will find your stunt much quicker than having a video with a length of 30 minutes. Slow motion, you have two options. You can either choose to record your slow motion video in 2.7K, 16:9 with 100 frames per second, or choose 1080p and record with 120 or 200 frames per second. The higher the frame rate, the better the slow motion looks like. However, the more ambient light is required. It's also nice for sports. TimeShift, one of my favorite features of this camera, only possible to record in 4K using 30 frames per second, and with that resolution in a 16:9 format, 30 frames per second, you can do that for 1 hour and 18 minutes. A TimeShift video is much better if you do something while you move. So for instance, if you place your camera in your car and you do a TimeShift, it looks more fluent and it's stabilized. Or if you walk through a forest and you use that camera and you don't want to skip anything, however you want to show your audience where you walked through in a much faster way. The difference between a TimeShift and a time-lapse is the following. In a time-lapse video, you can choose the resolution and you can choose the interval. So in this case, I would tell the camera to record in 4K 16:9 with an interval of 2 seconds, and the camera will take a picture every 2 seconds and merge them together into a final video. That is useful if you build, for instance, a house. I would go for a longer interval because building a house takes longer than walking from A to B, while this one here is not stabilized and you skip everything in between your interval. So the camera takes now a picture every 2 minutes, 120 seconds, and you need about 30 pictures with a time difference of 120 seconds for 1 second of video. So the camera will merge the pictures together to a final video. My recommendation here is the longer something takes, building a house for instance, the longer I would choose the interval. The faster something happens, let's say driving a car for 500 miles, I would probably go for an interval of 5 to 10 seconds. Driving for 30 miles, I would choose a shorter interval, let's say 1 or 2 seconds. However, it's not stabilized, and in some cases I would rather use a time shift than a time lapse. And here is a perfect example of a time lapse and a time shift video. HDR, active HDR, not recommended in low light environment. As I told you, HDR stands for high dynamic range. It makes sense if you have a lot of shadows, a lot of lights, and you kind of want to have an equal contrast. That's where active HDR would make sense. By the way, if you want to start to record a video, push the start and stop button. If you want to stop that video, push it again. If you want to take a picture, push the start and stop button. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, I will show you very quick how to change the lens. The cool thing about this camera compared to the GoPro is that you can leave everything like it is and open the case separately. With GoPro that doesn't work because you have these action mountings down here and they are adjusted to the media mod, which is a shame that it doesn't work. However, here it works. So get the battery off. Make sure you connect it this way so that the battery fits at the housing like this. And then slide it back inwards and make sure that the power button and the record button match to each other. So compared to the other lens, you don't have as many options as before, since you're using now a 360-degree lens. So if you're in video mode, the only chance that you have to record a video is in 5.7K, or either 4K, 3K, but the frame rates are different now. Then let me have a look in photo mode. Once you're taking a photo with that 360-degree lens, make sure once you take a picture, you stand still because the camera takes multiple pictures and merges them together. So it's really important that you don't move while the camera is shooting. HDR photo is the same. All the rest is basically the same. Burst doesn't work with this camera since it's probably too much data. Bullet time is a feature where the camera is recording in 3K with 100 frames per second. So it's going to be a slow motion video. And there is a special bullet time stick that you need to buy in combination with the invisible selfie stick. And if you spin that around your head, you get kind of a scenes like this. TimeShift as before, it's now recording the TimeShift in 5.7K. You can choose between 1x speed or 6x speed. So it's stabilized time-lapse. Time-lapse will still work in 5.7K. You can still choose the interval. HDR recording works, and obviously video recording as well. To finish up this tutorial, we take our phone. It doesn't matter if you're using an iPhone or an Android phone, just make sure you enable Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. Download the Insta360 app, which is available for free in the Google Play Store and the iOS App Store. It's around about 750 megabytes. Tap on the app. The camera just stands behind me. As you can see, I've set up these two lights here. And it's pretty simple to add a camera. So there's a plus symbol down there. If you tap on that, it's searching automatically for the camera you have. So it can either be the Insta360 ONE RS or the Insta360 ONE X2. Whatever camera you're using, you will find it using the plus button down there. Inside the app you have tons of options, so you can connect to your Insta360 account and share all your footage with the Insta360 community. There's the camera, it says ONE RS. Here's the firmware version. If there is an update, make sure you tap on that button and then you will get a notification that either the lens can be updated or the camera itself. Anytime you export a video, there might be a logo by Insta360. If you want to get rid of that logo, use the slider down here. Let's jump into the camera itself, which stands behind me, so it is enabled. And as you can see, that is now the 360-degree lens. So use your phone to turn around, which is pretty nice. As you can see, it's not the invisible selfie stick. So at the moment I see the tripod. So the camera doesn't ignore every tripod. Up here you can choose if you want to shoot in standard mode, vivid, or if you would like to use a log profile for color grading in post. Here are the same settings which I have shown before. You can choose now if you would like to record in 5.7K, 4K, 3K and the different frame rates. If you want to switch between video and photo mode, simply push on the photo button down here. And as I told you before, if you would like to take a picture, stand still. It says capturing. And down here is the final picture. So that's basically the entire hotel room where I'm sitting here at the moment. You can also choose a wide angle to be seen, so it would you can only export this version here or the 360-degree picture without any problems. Down here you can choose your formats, 1:1, that's like the Instagram style, 2:35, which is like a super wide, 9:16, and Color Plus will give the entire picture an extra burst of, let's say, colors, snapshot, filters. You have tons of filters which are really cool, I mean, compared to other apps, and a lot of them make really sense. And if you would like to adjust a filter, or if you say, well, the filter is not enough, you can push it down here, simply use the slider to do that. And if I would like to save that image, no problem at all. You can also delete these files from your camera's storage by pushing on the delete button, or download it, or do other adjustments like color temperature, contrast, saturation, highlights, and so on. Anytime you adjust something and you would like to go back to the original version, that's also no problem at all. To export a picture, simply push on export, and then it gives you some options: cancel, export 360-degree photo, or export reframed photo, which I will do now. I did it now in the reframed version because that's exactly what I see now on my phone. You can share that now with the Insta360 community. You can share that on Instagram, share that with your library. And of course, if you push on these three buttons down there, you can share it via email, WhatsApp, Telegram, Instagram. Doesn't matter, you can share it basically in any app. So that is my photo library. If you want to share it from here, no problem at all. You can mark it, here's some information regarding that picture, or you can delete it from your phone's memory. If you tap on these three bars down there, you see all the options and you don't have to slide from left to the right. So if you would like to take a night shot, there's no problem at all. The camera will do its possible adjustments to make the image quality as good as possible. And it's probably taking a longer shutter speed. Let me try that out for you. It took now multiple pictures, and let me see how that came out. It used a longer shutter speed, and as you can see from there, we have more details. To save some space on your memory card, you can choose to record only in JPEG or JPEG plus RAW if you're planning on doing some post-editing as well. Down here, you can choose, you can adjust the white balance, so that's 10,000 Kelvin, and I usually set it to auto. Anytime you would like to take a picture of yourself and you're not using the phone, or you would like to have a big group inside that picture, maybe on a wedding or something, you can select a timer. And by the way, I find it more convenient to control the camera using my phone instead of using the small display. Interval picture, we spoke about that already. So here's the duration for the interval pictures. You can select to take a picture every 3 seconds, 5 seconds, or up to 2 minutes, which can be nice if you have a big project and you want to save some even raw files, do some post editing and merge them together later on for a time lapse with other apps. These three dots on the upper right side give you some additional options. You can select to have a histogram, GPS enabled, or watch a tutorial, which you're watching anyways at the moment. Anytime you download a picture or a video, they're stored in the album, and at the moment I have selected the camera as my source for the files. Once you have downloaded something, it's locally stored, and if you're still using it from the camera's memory, you need to select camera up here. Let me say I don't like these pictures anymore and I would like to delete them from my camera's memory. Simply select them and delete them. There are some video files I took with the other lens. To pause it, simply push on the button right here. You see these two arrows here pointing to the left and to the right. If you tap on them, it jumps between different files. To pause it, simply push on the display once again. You can trim it inside here. You can adjust the colors. You can take a snapshot. Face filters would only make sense in case I would have filmed myself. In this case, you can add music. You can adjust the speed. You can adjust the exposure, the color temperature, the contrast, the saturation, as seen previously while editing a picture. You can mark them, which is useful if you have taken a long holiday and you have tons of files on your memory card and you're sitting in a plane, maybe sorting out some of them or even highlighting them to find them more easy once you return home and you do some editing on your computer using the Insta360 Studio app. You can also reset all the edits, delete the file, or you can download it. And then there's a little hint, which we will follow now. And up there, you see the status of the download. So that's a time shift. While I was walking through the forest, it leaks a little bit, and that's why I can recommend to get the Insta360 Quick Reader. I've just done a review about it. If you look on my channel, you'll find it straight away. In post, you can select a different angle for that, which is awesome, to be honest. Here it's straightening the lines. If you look at the trees, ultra, action, so that is kind of the fisheye look I was speaking about, FPV, and most of the time for me, wide works out perfectly. If I would do snowboarding, it would probably either ultra or action. Let me export this one here very quick, and once you tap on export, you can select the resolution. Now the frame rate is fixed and the bitrate. The higher the bitrate, the better the quality. And this video will probably take around about 30 seconds to export onto my phone's memory. So that's the exported file without any leaking on my phone's memory. Up here you have a lot of filters. So if I only would like to see some photos, no problem at all. Here are just videos, standard, HDR video, time shifts, standard photo, and night shots. And if I tap on local, there are some files I previously downloaded into the app. So here is a nice example of an HDR picture taken close by Cologne. And it doesn't matter if these files are still on your camera. Once you have downloaded them onto your phone, you can still do these nice color corrections, use different filters without any problems, or delete these files if you're not satisfied. So that was quite a long tutorial. However, I hope you learned something. If you have any further questions, please do not hesitate to write a comment below. To support my channel, please make sure to buy any of that stuff shown in this video using the links provided in the video description below, and make also sure to follow me on Telegram and Instagram. The outro will be from Frankfurt. However, I say goodbye from Memmingen, and thanks for watching.